Yizzo! So I am back and I am very excited. Very, very excited. Y'all asked for this special lady to be on the podcast since I had been doing some of her shows with her friends. And so I was like, I'm a wrangler. I'm going to get her now because she's a hot commodity. And she agreed. And I appreciate it. So Miss Olay Olurin is on Around the Way Curls. Welcome, girlfriend. How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, girl, fresh out of being honored. How was your night last night? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
It was so nice. Honestly, I literally, as I was riding home, me and my boyfriend, I said to him, you know, sometimes you have like something that's supposed to be a big deal or a big event you're looking forward to, and then it's never all that. It always falls flat. Like, I was like, oh no, this was a perfect night. It was so great. I told Mahogany, I was like, I can only imagine how much energy and work this must have been putting together an event like this, but I'm glad you did it. Like, it feels worthwhile. I needed this love. It's so
And
nice.
what was the official name of the event?
The Black Girl Magic Ball. It's
yes,
the 7th
Black
annual.
Girl.
Yeah. And they gave me the Purveyor of Black Girl Magic award, and that was beautiful.
And you looked beautiful. Let me see. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well deserved. Well deserved.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's super dope. I'm gonna for those of you living under a rock, I'm gonna spit some I'm gonna do my best Shannon Sharp. You know how he always runs down what everybody's doing. I saw this from your website though. But for those of you that don't know who Olay is, I'm going to attempt to summarize such. All right? Because none of this is going to encapsulate all that you do. But Olay is a movement lawyer, political commentator, writer, and abolitionist thinker. You were born in the Bahamas.
Yes.
But you also have Nigerian descent. Are your cats fighting? Are they okay? Because I'm a cat mom, so we got to take a beat.
Chill out. Raheem, Asada. All right. CJ.
Keep it in, Monty, because this is real. Yo, I understand. As a cat mom, I get it.
They're playing, but they also are OD, and I think like when Raheem feel like she get the drop on him, he just start screaming and panic.
Are they okay?
Yeah, I think so. CJ's giving them dinner now because I think he thinks that'll settle them. I apologize for the war.
You're fine. I'll start over because I couldn't read halfway anyway. All right. Olay is a movement lawyer, political commentator, writer, and abolitionist thinker. You're born in the Bahamas, but you have Nigerian descent as well, correct?
Yeah, my daddy is from Nigeria.
I love it. And then you moved to America in 2008.
Yeah.
You are a public defender, so you've represented former.
Yeah.
You represented people who cannot afford representation, who unfortunately and uncoincidentally make up the vast majority of people churned through, I love that word, churned through the criminal system. You educate people about systemic racism, abolition, and why they should divest from the prison industrial complex. You are a prominent voice in the movement to decarcerate and close Rikers, an infamous pretrial detention center here in NYC, where people unfortunately die awaiting trial every single year. I think people don't realize that, and we're going to get into that later. But Rikers is very much still open, very much still operating as it was intended to.
Yes.
And despite so many people saying we're going to close Rikers, it has not happened. And people are still dying on Rikers Island.
Yes.
Currently. Okay. You've been published. Let me give you some, let me let you gloat real quick. Olay has been published in Teen Vogue, Essence Magazine, The Griot, News One, and has appeared on many, many outlets. Maybe you would have just caught her on The Breakfast Club, giving Eric Adams the business. You've also been on with John Oliver, The Hill. That's partly where I discovered you. NBC, MSNBC, CBS, NBC, iHeartRadio, NPR, Yahoo News. Girl, it just goes on. It's ridiculous. It goes on and on and on. You're that girl. People are finally I think recognizing how important your voice is. I think that we've just watched you in like the last couple of months, your star skyrocket, shine as it
Yeah.
should. Your voice needs to be amplified. It's so incredibly important. And so I'm honored to be chatting with you
Oh,
today.
I'm honored, sis. Thank you. I love it.
I I I hit you up because I had seen your work on the Hill.
Yeah,
And I was
rising.
like, oh, she ain't no joke. Go ahead, girl. And then I saw you on Higher Learning, and the way
Yeah.
that you handled okay, it was around the Diddy lawsuit from
Yeah.
Cassie, and this was around the time when, we don't have videos. It was very new, very fresh, and there was a lot of questioning as to why she was taking Diddy to court civilly.
Yeah.
And the way that you broke that down, I actually played your clip on our show,
Oh, I love
and
that.
I was just like, "Stop playing with her, yo." Like, the way you broke it down, not only as to legally why she had to take him to court and it be a civil case, but
Yeah.
also have the listeners reflect on why this is the only type of case that you have that question for, whether
Right.
it's sexual assault, domestic violence, crime against women at the
Right.
hands, especially of prominent men who have a special place in our hearts. We
Yeah.
think of them and there's all this nostalgia, right? And you were like, if somebody kills a Black boy unfairly and the family sues the police department, are we questioning why they're
Right.
suing, getting
Right.
money?
If you get injured in a car accident or in a slip or fall, or if anything happens to you, or employment discrimination, or anything else that happens to you, and you pursue civil damages, nobody else question. It's never questioned. And it just goes to show it's just a constant moving of the goalpost.
Mhm.
Always, like, there is no context where it'll be okay, right? Because if you pursue civil charges, they say, oh, all you want is money, right? You don't want
Right.
real justice. If you pursue criminal justice, then they say, oh, you're
Meg.
trying to throw a Black man in prison. You're trying to use the criminal system to destroy a Black man. If you just tell your story in the moment, oh, you're trying to get this man ostracized and canceled and
Yeah.
alienated within the community. So what can you
Right.
do other
You're
than be quiet?
attention seeking. Yeah,
Yep.
the way that you just broke that down and laid it out so plainly for everyone, I was just like, kudos to you. I hit you up on Instagram, was like, sis, you don't know me from a can of paint, but I so appreciate you. And from there on, we just been kikiing over
Yeah, I love
cats.
you, sis. Yeah,
I
you're a
love you too, girl.
gem.
I want to make sure that people also know, like, it's wonderful that you're on Teen Vogue, Essence, The Breakfast Club, all these things, but you also have your YouTube page.
Yes, that's what I really love, Allure Nadi.
Yes, talk about it, please, because it's
Yeah,
important.
so my YouTube channel is Allure Nadi, and that's really, like, for me, what matters the most. Like, I see all my other opportunities on other media and things like that as just a way for you to drive traffic back to the
Mhm.
content it is that I'm creating. And so on there, I have Allure Nadi Productions, where I put out these, like, long form video essays. So that's where my Eric Adams expose that
They're
everybody knows about.
documentaries.
They are documentaries.
They're,
Yeah,
you
they
can
are.
call them video essays, but you are literally making documentaries. It's wild to
Exactly.
me.
And I love it. It's so much fun, right? Like,
Yes.
it's a bunch of work, but it's so dope when, like, oh, you created the thing. Like, when I see everybody, like, talks to me about my Eric Adams expose, I'm like, that's so funny because I wrote that in my house. You know what I mean? Like, that's something
It's
I decided,
crazy.
like, I was just trying to be convenient. Like, hey, I have so much of a problem with him. Let me just try and sandwich as much together so you could get it in one easy place.
That's the one that I watched after I saw you on Higher Learning. I was like, "Oh, let me go ahead and see what she's talking about over here," because you're brilliant also with how you market,
Thank
and
you.
that picture that you use, I was like, "She got problems, yo." That man that man, you are on his radar. He watching you right now, girl.
Listen, it is so funny. It's actually funny. I realized the moment I met him too, like, oh yeah, you've seen that video.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, it's funny too because I would never sit through. Like, I realized, like, okay, you've seen it too. I'm like, I was never gonna sit through 2 hours on my head. You know what I mean? Like, you could not get me to do it. Like, if somebody wrote, would you watch a 2 hour why fuck Antoinette video? Like, did you watch it?
No, but I watched the Eric Adam ones, and I'm still I paused the what is it? You had Greg Abbott as well. I paused
Yes.
that one, but I'm getting through it now. Oh,
Yes,
I'm getting through it.
I just
I
did Greg
said,
Abbott. That one just no, it is really dope. That one just passed the 100,000 mark, and I'm like, yeah, let's. I think that's what we need, right? Like I watch a lot of YouTube, and I see a lot of like how people like to consume content and what video essays, and there are so many video essays and documentaries and all these things on YouTube about everything you could think of, every celebrity, every influencer, every YouTuber, every this, and I'm like, meanwhile, we have a nation full of politicians with all kind of power doing all kind of stuff that we all should know about, and for some reason, you mean to tell me, doesn't it seem crazy that if you go on YouTube and you type in like Joe Budden, academics, anybody, you will find all kinds of video essays willing to compile for you whatever the argument is about them, but you can't find that for someone like Greg Abbott, who was in power 30 years doing shit. Like, isn't that crazy?
I think, well, it speaks to a larger issue, and I literally was thinking about this when it comes to you, because I'm like, you are the true, like, we here love to say duality is a thing, and I feel like you're the true definition of that duality, because it's like you're giving us a masterclass in how to provide substance while also giving us the pop culture, the clippable viral moments, but it's always going, like, if we have a conversation around academics, if we have a conversation around Drake and Kendrick, it's not just the surface level of who won the beef and let's go line by line. We're talking about identity, we're talking about capitalism, we're talking about healing, we're talking about inner self work. It's just, there's so many layers to your content.
Thank
and
you.
It's so well rounded, and I think that's why people gravitate towards it, because of course it would be very difficult to go on somebody's page and all they do are video essays on politicians, right? A very specific kind of person is going to go there. Whereas if you can go and see this video essay, watch this video essay on fucking Eric Adams, and then also get a little bit on academics, get a little bit on Drake, and then see you didn't even talk about your iconic series interviews where you have all of these incredible guests: Amanda Seales, Ebro. Who else did you have on there?
Laverne Cox, T.F. Madison, Angelica Ross. I just had FD.
It's a beautiful space on the internet that you've carved out and created for yourself. So bravo to you.
Thank you, sis.
Seriously.
You, sis.
Since you tend to talk fast, you give a good read. Okay.
Okay, sis.
So I am like, I love it. And I need to think about my thoughts. I need to write them down. I need to like prep. And I just feel like you're one of these quick-witted, like on it. You got it covered. So I'm going to say a name. Okay. And 15 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever, 30 seconds. I just want you to say whatever it is that comes to mind when you think of this name.
Okay.
Okay.
It's so excited for today.
Ready?
Yes.
Amber Rose.
Old baddie, like old, like out, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean old in terms of age, but just like old in terms of relevance. Like, you said that, and I was like, damn, I ain't thought about Amber Rose in a long time.
Have you seen her? She just endorsed Trump. You saw that, right?
I know you fucking lying. No,
that's why I said it.
The last time I thought about Amber Rose, she had a tattoo on her forehead, and I was like, girl, why are you doing that?
Just pictured at a Trump event, tattoo on her forehead, smiling with him, with Melania, saying, you think Biden's gonna help Black people? You guys got another thing coming. Trump 2024.
Her and Kanye make a lot more sense the more you know, right? Like,
the more you know.
Hey, that is funny, but honestly, that's unsurprising to me, right? Like, a lot of these people, this is why, hear me and hear me good. This is why I mostly like people to shut the fuck up, you know? Like, I swear to you, every time I look, it's people on social media begging for their faves or their whomever to speak up, and I'm like, I would actually prefer if you would shut the fuck up, so I could continue liking you for whatever frivolous niche issue reason that I liked you. Like, you know what's funny? Amber Rose had Do you remember there was a time when Amber Rose had a Lori Harvey type mysteriousness story? You remember when she was in her original Kanye and she didn't talk?
Yes.
She was
She was just Amber being like cute somewhere,
just
fly, ball headed.
just fine. Just
fine.
yeah.
Racially ambiguous. Nobody really knew what was going on over
those
there.
were the good fucking days. Okay. Like, Amber, shut the fuck up. I can't like
There's certain people I do want to speak up. It's certain
her
people
and
like
Black China stopped being friends and they've been on bullshit ever since. Have you noticed? You remember when they used to be quiet?
I gotta be honest. China
didn't
is
know
somebody I
it was
did not pay attention to.
Amber, and I'm telling you, there was a time clearly when I'm not learning the law, I know on nothing but limited celebrity gossip. I don't need for no reason. Amber and Black China used to be besties, locked in, and neither one of them used to speak. I remember up until the Black China time, Black China used to not speak. Then when she put out the show in Orange, and she just been talking ever since, and they fell out. They never said why, but they fell out, and they both have been doing nut shit ever since.
Oh God.
I'm like, clearly they were their guiding light.
That's why we were scared when Savannah got a mic. When LeBron James is, because we was like, wait, now girl, we love you. I'm scared though.
She definitely shouldn't have one, because do you watch this YouTube channel called Real Reality Gossip, RRG?
No, girl, what is that?
Okay, girl, that's my shit. Okay, let me just you and my boyfriend like gossip just like me too. Soon as we watch it together religiously, soon as the RG sound come on, we come running out like RG. There's these like series called the Red Flag series, right? And they go through all these like different Black relationships and all. I'm telling you, watch RRG. Go on there, Antoinette. You will be hooked. You're gonna text me like, what is this foolishness I got you into?
I'm RRG.
Yes.
All right, I see it.
They do the best, like every Black celebrity, whatever you could think of, they're so good. Okay, I gotta say,
it's like media takeout shade room on steroids.
So much better and so much like it's so Black. Oh, I love it. So they put out a video on all the red flags and all the issues with LeBron James and Savannah's relationship, right? All the details and all the things you wouldn't know. And I was like, see, this is the thing, right? I feel like the average person like a me who knows they love Savannah because you LeBron wife and you so gorgeous and you don't know this shit, which means, and like my camp of people on the internet are very like, if a woman does not have a partner, a man that is actually truly honoring her and blah, 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 and great to her, they mad at the woman. Like if they find out the woman is with the man who ain't particularly great to the information, like LeBron and Savannah look beautiful together. It's all beautiful and the actual facts of the matter.
I heard that it's all very above board over there. Whatever happens, everyone's clear about, and they're moving accordingly. So then say my business.
You gotta go watch. All I'm saying is you should watch that RRG video.
I'm trying to get as smart as you. I'm not a lawyer. Yeah, I'm on here like, what is Googling history and shit. All right, I'm gonna name a couple more names.
Okay, I'm excited.
Diddy.
Unsurprising. Like everything about Diddy is unsurprising. Like and I think that's the thing, right? Is that everybody knows that they know it, and they know they've known, and they know that it hasn't been genuine. You know, the like the original, it was the way people, when the Cassie accusation started, all the people that wanted to be like, oh, why is she coming out with this now and all this and the next thing. It's like, you've always known what Diddy is. These allegations are not new. I think everything about Diddy is just like, I seen the video, and other than feeling like a little bit triggered because I have a college boyfriend. I had a college boyfriend abuse me and kick me similarly. Other than that, no, it's okay. So small things such as life 10 years ago. Like, but I was not surprised at all. And you know what's crazy? It was seeing like what really upset me, but again didn't surprise me, was seeing the commentary. Like I seen this one tweet from this girl being like, if I were, ain't nobody gonna just beat me up. We gonna have a fight or some stupid shit like that. And I was like,
yeah, that's not how it works. Could tell you've never been hit by a man or even close to it, because that's not what you're thinking. And your lover and this powerful billionaire is
dog. I'm like, that shit right there. And then there was someone like, oh, she shouldn't have took the elevator. She should have took the stairs. She was really trying to get. I said, these people, like, you ever
blame
read something
the woman, blame the woman.
God should send a flood. Like I honestly, when
I wrote that today, I said, send a rapture.
That's the most believable story in the Bible, you know. Like if I were actually the overseer everything. I controlled everything based on how I feel sometimes when I see too much out of the opinions and the mouths of mankind. I could absolutely see me hearing, like, going through my Rolodex of prayers for the day, hearing the things people talking about, what they saying, what they think makes sense, and being like, I think I'll actually drown every motherfucker in this bitch. I actually think that I should start from scratch because I
I
kind of fucked up.
literally today is May 22nd, and Joseph Buttons just came out and had his whole spiel about how he feels about the video, how disgusting it was, and him taking this moral high ground when, excuse me, I wrote under that, I said, send the flood, send the rapture, because baby, what? This is your opportunity to repent. This is your opportunity to confess your sins, bro, because you got a lot over there. And
Yeah.
then Tahiri, of course, came back at him and was like, "Are you
Oh, did
kidding
Tahiri
me?"
say something?
Oh, yeah, girl, you ain't been on the
Oh
blogs
my god,
today.
what
Tahiri
is going
said something,
on?
and then he said something back that was abhorrent, horrible, calling her all kinds of worthless, this and that, and and
What?
now there's even more women on Twitter saying, I've
Oh
been holding
shit!
on to this, but you did the same thing to me." And he's been accused with Esther and everything else. So we'll see where that develops. But I have no love lost for that man. And I just feel like I don't have space for folks who cannot take accountability and who won't. It's just like people are not people are not perfect. People make horrible, awful mistakes, but you have to be able to be accountable for said mistakes. And what accountability looks like is a whole other thing that we can get into at another time. But yeah, he's
I'm
being
seeing these
horrible on the
posts.
internet. I'll send it to you, girl. I see you scrolling.
I'm reading it right now.
Mm-hmm. Paragraphs. And on Twitter it's worse because it's other women saying, you beat me. A couple more. Democratic Party. It's not a name of a person, but
Moderate. I mean, moderate. I think that's the best, the nicest, or the most factual thing I can describe. Right. I wouldn't say disappointing or surprising or anything that like that to me, because I don't expect it. Like, again, electoral politics and politicians is not a place that I channel my energy and hope into, right? Like, that's not where I see change is coming from. I see politicians as, like, at best, like, mild facilitators for something. Like, you know how it is. You know how it's kind of like, I need a breast reduction, right? And I have scoliosis. My back is busting, right? And I have a lot of icy hot. And icy hot can never deal with the problem, right? But, like, I own it. Like, I'll buy me some icy hot and hope that, like, maybe we could use this to facilitate the efforts and the energies that I overall need to make towards what I need to do. That's how the Democrats are. Like, at best, Democrats are some icy hot for a skeletal problem. Yeah, like, that's how I see it. That's the best you're gonna get
they're not the
out of them.
solution.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel
Exactly.
you. What about voting?
Same. So listen, let me say this. Funny because I have a bunch of comments right now. I was just saying this to my boyfriend, and people screaming at me that I need to run for mayor. And I think it's funny because I'm like, everybody wants me to run for political office, and I can't even vote for any of them.
I know.
So that being said, like,
And you
being
can't vote because you're not a citizen yet.
exactly, I'm not a U.S. citizen. I'm an immigrant. Even though I've been in the U.S. now the majority of my life, longer than I was ever in my country. I am an attorney. I'm obviously a political
Right.
commentator, and I'm very informed and all that. So I said it to say,
Unreal.
not having the right to do something, being deprived of the ability to do something, makes me not be able to downplay it in a way that a lot of people do. Like, a lot of people see it as insignificant, but listen, I remember interning for the DA's office in law school at the time when the DA was up for election and not being able to vote. Like all these local positions, I would love to have a say in who the district attorney is in my office. I would have loved to have had a say in who would have become mayor. I would love to be able to. The way I have a voice is by basically trying to hope I can, educate other people and that they exercise their right, but I don't have that right. So yes, I don't believe that voting is the end all be all, because, like I said, electoral politics in and of itself is not the end all be all, but I still think it is a valuable tool towards liberation, and it's one that I wish that I had.
And
And the
then
day I can vote, I will be there. Oh, the
I know
day I
that's right.
can. Oh my God. Like you have no idea. I have never been, it's funny because I've never been able to. I've never voted in my life because I've been in America now since I was
Right.
14 and it doesn't feel reasonable. I don't feel qualified to go vote in Bahamian elections. I don't feel like I should have so
Mhm.
yeah, so I've never gotten to do it. So when I am 30 now,
Wow.
hopefully eventually one of these days.
30, you're a baby.
Oh, thank
A
you.
fucking
I'll be 31 in
powerhouse,
July.
dog.
Oh,
Oh my,
thank
and a
you.
Cancer?
No, a Leo.
Oh, I was about to
Yeah,
say, you
I've
don't
been
strike.
no, I'm a Leo
Mm.
sun, a Scorpio moon, and a Virgo rising.
Oh God. You are,
A lot.
wow. I'm not even gonna say a lot. You are necessary, but you're a force.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, sis. Thank you.
This one, take your time. I mean, take whatever time you need because I know that this is near and dear to your heart. Diaspora wars.
White supremacy. I think diaspora wars
Mm.
is white supremacy, and I had this conversation a while ago, and I think it's a Malcolm X quote, and I think it best encompasses is like any analysis that leaves out the oppressor is one that will have you vilifying the oppressed, right? Like that's essentially, and that is what I want to make sure I always do when I discuss these things, because people will I it goes on all right. It's like everybody, all these different groups of Black people are being fed this divisive tool of white supremacy that wants us to fight at each other and wants to see each other as the enemy, or each other as the obstacle, or who's getting what we deserve. It feeds this there can only be one, in this kind of like stupid ass things between us. And how that functions in real life is, the problem is like everybody can be agents of white supremacy, and because we're being fed that, you're experiencing this aspect of white supremacy from other groups of Black people, and instead of addressing it as the root and what white supremacy is and where this is coming from, instead Black people are lashing out at other groups of Black people. So you have Black immigrants or Black Caribbean people or Black African people feeling and saying disparaging things about Black Americans, and Black Americans seeing and feeling these disparaging things about Black immigrants or Black Africans or Black Caribbeans or whoever else there. And all of it is a bunch of white supremacist shit. Like all of it is. So for me, I just have to always remember that. Like it's angry when you experience it, you're experiencing something, but I always have to make sure I take a step back and be like, where is this coming from and what's happening? And remember that like people are being fed this, and this isn't intentional, and I cannot respond to experiencing white supremacy by becoming an agent of white supremacy myself and lashing out at other Black people. So it's basically just some ignorant shit I try to stay away from.
Heard you. Let's take a break, and after these messages, we are going to get into abolition, into prison reform, and copaganda.
Yeah.
Very excited. I'm gonna do my best Shanti again, y'all, while she's taking her mental health break. After these messages, we'll be right back. Boop. Won't really take a break. You need a break?
Oh no, we're good.
Okay. And we are back. So you're one of the channels that I truly do watch. And I was watching. And you had a video called What Do Police Do? And this was with Olay and friends.
Yeah.
And I don't know this gentleman's name. You can let me know what his name is after I play it. But I just thought that he had such a wonderful point of view and take. So I'm going to play a clip from that, and I'm going to link it in the description of this episode. Everyone needs to go check this out. And also just check out Olay's entire YouTube channel. But here we go. It's a 2-minute clip. So get yourself comfortable. All right, y'all. But it's worth it.
I understand what you're saying. But I also think, and I mean, honestly, like, the idea that police are there to protect the community, to solve crimes, is in itself propaganda. Because that's not their goal. And that's why it's so the kind of stuff, right? I think that's why I think when she touched, when Imani touched on clearance rates, I think that's so important, right? Because let's just, like, we could be a progressive, you could have your ideology, but let's evaluate them through their value system. And the value system. They say that we're here to protect people and to arrest people and convict people to commit crimes. They're horrible like that. Like, let's remember, they are horrible at it. They will arrest you. I know. They will arrest random people. They arrest people with no evidence. They bring horrible cases. They have no idea who does anything. They have, like, their job is to solve crimes. Are horrible at it, and so you either have to start looking at it and say, okay, is that are they just bad at their job and knowing theaters, or is that not their job? That's not their job. That their job is to keep the community under control. That stuff happens in the community and our community, whatever. Make sure that stays there. Which is why I think it was a study earlier. It was in Boston. It was like they found some of the most first happen in Wall Street in that area, right? Because the issue was, why is this black person here? Yeah, why are you in this neighborhood? If we're going to aggressively penalty you and enforce the law, we're going to aggressively grab you and put you against the wall, because that's the anger.
Yeah.
Wow.
First of all, that's my mentor.
What is his name?
Masai Lord.
Masai Lord.
Yeah, doesn't he a larger than life name, right? It's so funny. Masai is a civil rights attorney in New York City and a former public defender. Masai's been my mentor since the very beginning of my first year of law school, because he came in to talk to the Black Law Students Association, and I heard him and I was like, oh my, at that point, I was the first, since I'd started law school, I'd seen another very loud, bombastic Black person attorney, and I was like, that's who I need. That has to be my mentor. I was like, I need somebody there are different kinds of people, different kinds of lawyers, different kinds of style. And I needed somebody else that was a lot to mold me. And that's who taught me. That was my mock trial coach all of law school. That's who taught me how to be a litigator. So Masai doesn't do content of any kind or anything. I just slip my real life mentors and people into Olay and Friends episodes. And yeah, because that's who I talk to. He informs a lot of my positions in real life.
Wow. Well, shout out to, he covered it, because I wanted to start off with copaganda and of course ask you what is copaganda, because we've talked about a little bit on Around the Way Curls around abolishing the police, and I think my co-host Shanti is much more like, get rid of it, blow it up, blow it all to hell, and I'm more like, whoa, we don't have any other system in place, we don't have any real understanding of what abolition looks like, of what accountability looks like, of how the community holds people accountable. And
we do, right?
And that's why I love that you're on, because after listening to you, I'm like, oh, I have fallen for the copaganda. I'm watching SVU. I'm watching these things and thinking that this is how police are operating, even though my lived experience is completely different.
Yeah, Raina talks about it about that a lot, actually, in that episode of Olay and Friends.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, it's funny. It's really funny, because whenever you talk about alternatives to what we know is a racist and unjust system, and a system that is factually slavery, right? That's what it is. It is America's legalized continuation of slavery. In the Abolition of Slavery, they make an explicit exception, and the exception is accept people that are convicted of crimes who they can use for criminal. So there's a blatant awareness of what the system is, right? And whenever you try to talk about why this system needs to go based on the things we all factually know. We know that it is disproportionately policing and incarcerating and hurting Black and brown and poor people, poor communities. Everybody feels like they act like, well, what will we do, right? You have to reinvent the wheel. You have to create something. So what, we haven't thought about this, but what we're being asked is to be treated the way other communities, the communities that are not those communities, are already treated, right?
There it is.
Right? There's a reason why white people, the powers that be, us, when we're talking about those communities, are highly aware of how we respond to things when it comes to them, right? They're aware. Joe Biden understands why the criminal system is not helpful for drug addiction when he's talking about his son. You know what I mean? When he's talking about Hunter Biden, he knows that is not what's going to help him. He doesn't want his son involved in the criminal system, but he doesn't know that when he's lobbying for a crime bill towards our community. So it's not like, I know, and the funny thing is, I know this because I came to America. I went to boarding school in West Virginia. I went to college in Ohio. Yeah, I have a PhD in white people. I know white people. I know them well. I know them well.
Maybe better than me, girl.
Listen,
My white ass mom. You might be tricky. Go ahead.
So I know, right? So I'm like, they understand. The most things I've seen the most drug use or the most illicit behavior from people who I know are now prosecutors, from people in my boarding schools, in my bougie white areas where I'm the only Black person in the room looking at everybody break out the coke at the dinner party, or you're hearing the stories that they're telling you about when they assaulted this person and the thing didn't happen, and you're just like, or like I have white lawyer friends that have multiple DUIs or who have committed crimes that got sworn in before Black attorneys I know that just owed money. You know what I mean? Owed money to collections. Now they got to explain that, right? So
Wow.
you're not asking. It's funny that people treat it almost, it's this inherent dehumanization, as if to suggest that Black people are like animals, because why don't you seem to know? It's like when you don't know how to handle an animal, like what to do, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you respond to addiction and to people and to the rich, right? Like when rich people, it doesn't matter what a rich person is accused of, it makes perfect sense for them to be in people's minds. No one responds to the outrage at the idea of them being able to post bail, or the idea that the criminal system should be different for them, right? Like you don't see people confused as to why a Donald Trump is out and about, even though he's facing crimes, right? It's the way that it's the way an Eric Adams, because they're the mayor or whatever, can be here lobbying for mass criminalization of poor people in the city accused of crimes when he himself stands accused of crimes. You know what I mean? But
talk about it.
But nobody sees it as, so what's the difference, right? Is it actually truly about safety or any of these other things that seem to go out the window once you're dealing with demographics of people who you don't see as belonging in the system? Because that's really what the difference is. We have seen rich people or powerful people or white people be accused of all matter of litany things, and it somehow becomes totally normal for a Kyle Rittenhouse to be on a press tour, right? Like that makes people respond with less outrage to Kyle Rittenhouse having killed people, gotten away with it, going on a press tour, appearing on podcasts, than they do a John Morant being able to go play the game after. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a perception thing. So yeah, I would say that's the first thing. But second, when it comes to abolition, like as a concept, abolitionists are aware, like we're aware that they're not going to just end the system and get rid of the police and close all the courts and all of that stuff tomorrow, right? And we're aware that we don't have the infrastructure for that. What abolition is a vision of the future. It's a vision of tomorrow. It's this idea that it's this fact, and Angela Davis talks about this a lot in Our Prisons Are Obsolete. But America is making a policy decision. America made an explicit policy decision, which led to the creation of all these prisons, which the massive decision to over-incarcerate, to create these 3 strikes laws, to create the drug war, to do all these things. These are policy choices. And that these policy choices have nothing to do with addressing, solving, or stopping crime, right? All of these things are just meant to ensure that the prison system continues to expand, because the prison system is a business. It's a corporation in America. And what is a corporation if not something that's meant to grow and to make more money? So what we're saying is that instead of continuing to invest in mass incarceration and to put more and more money into expanding police budgets, into expanding prisons, into building more prisons, instead start divesting that money from the criminal system and putting that into communities, so that over time, by putting the money into addressing people's mental health care, their housing, their education, their infrastructure, you will eventually alleviate the root causes of crime. That is what the vision of abolition is. And also for this too, people will do this thing, because I've seen so many white commentators do this, where they'll be like, oh, well, what about, instead of prison, what about some model that some majority white country somewhere practices, right? And it's like, I've seen them talk about the Nordic model, like, oh, this is what they do, and it's meant to rehabilitate or anything like that. Nobody is disputing that there are systems in the world, or there are ways that you could engage in a rehabilitation model, or that there aren't countries that are doing that. What we're saying to you is that America is not one of them, and it cannot be one of them, because that is not the focal point of America. America has the criminal system that it has. It has the policing system that it has, because it is there to keep Black and brown and poor people in place. It's there to control us. It's there to have them in a system. It's there to have them in a place of subjugation, so that they may never rise to the tops and have have the most power in society. That's why it's there. The reason you could see a Nordic model in that country is because there's a white ass country where everybody's in the same agreement for what they want for their people, right? They have no problem. The rich white people have no problem with rehab when it comes to their own. They send people to rehab every day. So it's not about the fact that we're not disputing that those things work. What we're disputing is America having any genuine desire to implement those or to help. America is not, the criminal system is not there to help Black people. It's not there to help brown people. It's not there to help poor people. That's not what it's there to do. And so that's why America will never have a Nordic model or these other models, because America doesn't want that, because America does not want that for the people that it's using the criminal system on.
Girl, a word. What is it at the beginning, y'all? You know, joke, of course, giving a good read. I mean, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking about so many things. I'm thinking about, one, the order that the cops are talking about is specifically what you're describing, this dehumanization. It's by design. Like, that's what they consider order. And I don't remember who said it, but in Olay and Friends, Sis was like, what you have to recognize is if police really were there to protect and serve, you would see them in white communities.
Exactly.
You would see them policing white spaces.
Yes.
But you don't see that.
Yes.
You don't see them up in Beverly Hills walking around with their flashlights, making sure that they're ready to stop and frisk someone.
Right? Isn't it funny that the people, I always think it's fine. I wrote a piece about this for Teen Vogue, I think, called Mass Incarceration is Insane. Isn't it funny how the people that are always telling you how afraid they are, they're so scared, but the police are supposed to be in your neighborhood? Why is you're so scared, but you're not asking for police in your neighborhood. You're asking for police in my neighborhood, right?
To keep your neighborhood the way it is currently.
Yes.
And these rascals, the folks that you dehumanize, the poor, the brown, the Black, the other, keep them out. We want our American picket fence. We want our American dream, and we don't want to be disturbed. All the rest of that other shit, y'all figure that out.
And it's the truth, right? Because I remember in law school, right? I've always known, I went to law school knowing I was going to be a public defender, knowing I was going to be on the side, but I went to a prosecutor mill. I went to St. John's Law. And everybody's a prosecutor. The damn dean's a prosecutor. They trying to push everybody into the prosecutor clinic. Everybody, all the DAs in the damn city went to St. John's. Prosecutor. So they basically insisted me I need to do an internship at the DA's office, right? So my 2L summer, I do an internship at the DA's office, and they felt about me how I felt about them. Like, it really confirmed and solidified everything that I always knew. They would do these things on Thursdays called like luncheons or something, like a paper. You go in the room and somebody talk. And I remember this Thursday, they were talking about how they, like, the person, the DA who was up there talking to us was like, oh, you know, in trying to, I know it could be hard to want to, in our job, and trying to protect these people or something, because the victim, our complainants, our victims are normally are the same as the defendants, right? Like, they look the same as the defendants, they're just like them or whatever. And saying the quiet part out loud is important in this context, because the thing about that is, as fucked up as that is the truest thing they ever said. It's amazing to me that people accept, like, they buy into this idea that the DA's office or the police officers are there to help the victims. But let me tell you why that logically doesn't make any sense at all. What they're arguing, this racist criminal system that we're in, tells us that it's Black on Black crime. They tell us that all the crime is happening not only by us, but they tell us it's happening to us. According to them, all this crime is relegated to our community, right? Like, it's all happening within their community. And so in their mind, our victims, our complainants, and our defendants are the same people in the same community. So how could you ever be actually looking out for the victims? Your interest was in the victim if your actual express focal point is to fuck and nail the defendant and keep them in a place of subjugation forever. If you're, by your own acknowledgement, your own admission, the complainants and the defendants are the same people. This is the same community. These people are in like this. You know what I mean? So what's the agenda there? It's certainly not to help.
When you were there, did prosecutors did some at least feel like they were doing the work of creating safer spaces or delivering justice the way the DA looks in SUV or Law and Order?
I think they believe in punishment, and I think they don't care. I truly do not like. They truly don't. Let me put it this way: I know a lot of prosecutors in real life, right? Like I know a lot of them. I went to school with a lot of them. I'm cool with a couple of them, and I'll say this about them and about some prosecutors. There are some people I went to law school with that if you ask why they want to be a prosecutor, they will give you the same answer I give you for why I want to be a defense attorney up until a point, right? The fork in the road goes like right to the end, right? So it's not that everybody who is a prosecutor or who decides to be a police or who decides to be a judge, whatever on that side, is innately bad or that they innately believe that they're doing wrong. It's that they believe in something that is destructive, right? What they believe, their idea of justice or their idea, because they've been taught that. Think about it. You are taught that the criminal legal system it's called the criminal justice system. You see justice as synonymous and good, and this as synonymous with punishment, with prosecution, with treating these bad people as horribly. That's what we see. That's all we've been indoctrinated to believe, that in order that how you respond to people that are bad or to someone to doing something wrong is to punish them, is to vilify them, is to condemn them, is to do these different things, right? And so in their minds, especially, and we start the inquiry there. The inquiry that people are taught to believe in the criminal system doesn't begin at how did people end up at the criminal system, right? It begins at this person is bad and that's why they're here now and what you do from there. The inquiry is not before there. So I think that's what happens a lot of it. Now, when I interned at the DA's office, they didn't have any. I didn't come across anybody who I thought had a moral school of thought that I would describe as genuine or in good faith, right? Like I remember once I was working in the DV unit specifically, and I remember like they would have the complainants come in. The complainant is, or who people think of as the victim. Complainant is the legal term, right? What happens is, and let me give you some legal explanation. In New York City, when you get charged with a crime, if you get charged with a crime, it's called a complaint. The criminal complaint is what you're indicted on or what you're arraigned on. That, in order for them to actually prosecute you on that case, that complaint has to be converted to an information. And that can only happen if generally if the complainant signs a supporting deposition saying that the allegations in here in this complaint are true and that I intend to move forward.
Okay.
So they need that to be signed within 90 days of when that person is arraigned, or if it's a misdemeanor in New York City, or it will automatically be dismissed and sealed. So what would happen in the DA's office when I interned is people would come in, they would call the complainants to come in to get them to sign the supporting deposition. Complainants would not want to. They do not want to proceed with this case. They didn't want the case for one reason or the other. And the prosecutors would basically trick them into feeling like, oh, you want help for your partner, or you don't want them prosecuted, or well, I can only do that for you if you sign this. You know what I mean? If you decide to move with it. So I remember once, that was pretty much our job at intake. Like the interns there is to get these complainants to sign a supporting deposition so that they could proceed with prosecuting these cases against their loved ones, right? And I remember a Black lady coming in and she was like, no, this bullshit didn't happen. It didn't happen. He didn't abuse me. The police abused him, whatever. And I was like, okay, whatever. And she was like, no. And so she pulls out the video and shows me the video, like literally it's the security, the footage from the street of her and her man are having an argument like 50 yards, like they're far from each other, having an argument across the street. They're not touching each other. Nothing happens. A bunch of police show up and all of them police pretty much tackle him to the ground, jump on top of him, this and the next thing.
And give him a domestic violence charge.
Yes. Meanwhile, it's the police actually brutalizing him on the video. And I remember I go and I call all, my superiors, my this, and everything you get from the whole vibe and energy from all of them is that they're fucking irritated that I happen to be the person who sees it. Like they don't care about this. They don't care about whether or not they want to proceed with this case against him or anything like that, because they don't. So
they want their quota.
Yeah, exactly.
They want their case and they want their quota.
Exactly.
Oh boy. All right. I don't want to skip over the fact that when we were talking about abolition, right? And you said, it's a vision for the future where we can divest from police, prisons, courts, right? And we can start to pour money into disenfranchised communities, invest into the root causes of the crime. I think that's really important. Mental health issues, unemployment, lack of education, poverty, poor housing, right?
Yeah.
I saw something around Obamacare and
Mm-hmm.
how in many rural areas of the country, after Obamacare was passed, crime went down.
Yeah.
And people believe that it's because folks were able to actually get mental health care and services that they weren't able to before. I think about Philly. Philly's crime rate right now is off the fucking rails.
Yeah.
And it's also it's not just, I know that like Eric Adams wants us to believe
Yeah.
that,
No, lived experience.
the subway is unsafe and all this shit, but this is like real. Like today I had a friend of mine who's a teacher tell me she was on lockdown at a school because there was a person roaming the school with automatic weapon.
Yeah.
I say all this to say, like, Philly is one of these places where it's such a poor city. The wealth disparity is so vast. I mean, you can have the greatest experience in Philly or the worst.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
And I also, there's a whole other thing. I talked about this with Mandy last week. Philadelphia. I don't know if you saw this report about CBS came out with this report, and they were saying that talking about how many police departments actually sell their guns back to the community in order to use that money to upgrade their weapons to keep up with the crime, which is just crazy. And Philadelphia was one of the premier cities where they actually sold more guns than the actual buyback program that they tout. And the Congress passed a law to prohibit the public from getting this information. And anyway, I'm going on a tangent, but I say all that to say it's proven. The abolition is proven to work. Like there's real data that shows that if you really want to prevent crime, if you really want to make a change, then you will invest in folks. You will help ease this large disparity. And so when we start
we commonsensically know that.
I don't, you know what, Olay? I
I
don't
really believe in my heart that people know that.
I am one of these people, I swear to God, and I'm embarrassed to say this.
Yeah.
But I'm one of these people who knows that I knew that folks who need help deserve help, right? I'm pretty much anti-capitalist. I'm like, I could.
That's the only difference, right? It's like you like folks who need help deserve help, but the way that people think about things is who deserves something, and if they believe you deserve something first, then that you need it, and they judge whether you deserve it based on what you did as a consequence of needing it.
Exactly. You're right. I'm one of these people that thinks Diddy needs help, and I ain't trying to get people on my ass. Not necessarily forgiveness to come back into the community, but you need help. Obviously, you are deeply unwell, and anyway, right?
I think the thing is the reason why people would never like. Here's the thing: it's like yes, a Diddy. Let's steer away. Let's divert for 1 second and talk about the Diddy thing.
Okay.
People deal with like Diddy's when they hear about like when they see the cases of violence or sexual abuse or something, when they cannot deny that it's even a thing at Joe, when they're forced to accept that it's really happening, they act like it's this. They don't want to say that this person needs help, that they believe it, because what they really need help with is something that society is not prepared to condemn. Because the reality is Diddy is not a boogeyman that's made in the lab somewhere. Like he's not some how we end up with a Diddy doesn't happen based on some mysterious concoction of things. Every day we teach men, we live in a world where men and women, the society that we live in, teaches men that if you are powerful, if you have a lot of money, if you are successful, that it is what you should have. What is a status symbol is how you are able to exploit people, how you are able to subjugate them, and specifically in
Black
the case
capitalism.
of women, and specifically in the case of women, right? People have known. Think about it. What we have known about Diddy. Forget if you have believed that he was abusive towards women or something. Forget, even put that aside. What we have known to be fact about Diddy his entire career is that he exploits his artists. That he mistreats his artists, that he steals, that he takes, that he does all these different things. And we've looked at that as signs of a shrewd businessman, a black icon, a hip hop mogul, or whatever have you, make money, because that is what patriarchy and patriarchal violence tells us, right? There's a reason why we've seen so many different examples of men and powerful men that have abused women, and it's been common and everyone just moves along with it. It's because that's what's being bred, and people don't want to contend with that. The minute you say you try to talk about where that actually comes from, the actual root causes of something like that, like rape culture and patriarchy and gender roles and misogynoir and all the things that you think are real men and you're right and all this different things. So that's where that happens, right? But people don't want to. So it's like when you say you need help, what people hear when they go to get mad, if you say Diddy needs help, they get mad like, no, this or worse, or not worse. What they hear is like, they think you're saying something like, oh, Diddy needs therapy or something that Diddy has the resources to do. Diddy doesn't need help in the sense that he didn't have the right therapist or something like that. Diddy needs help in terms of the world that you've taught him to believe in, because it's not like Diddy is not a monster that can't control himself, right? Or these men that are abusing and they're raping or they're abusing women or men or boys, whoever they're abusing, they're not doing it because they can't control themselves, because they know it's wrong. They know it's wrong and they can't control themselves. They're doing it because they fundamentally have been taught that it's right, that it is actually okay on the private, on in their minds and in the world they live in. When they're not on the main stage, a lot of the people around them believe that it's okay. And you know that because of Dr. Dre, we know it's a fact. Dr. Dre has beat women in hip hop, whether it be Michelet, D Barnes, and we will go and give him honorary awards. We're okay with that. People are okay with that. So that's the actual thing that's happening. The help that he needs is not the help that our community is willing to accept, that so many need.
I mean, it's all so deeply. I mean, bell hooks, go back to bell hooks, the imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. Yeah. It's all playing. Like, if you think that this conversation, if you're a listener and you think this conversation around copaganda, we're about to get into mass incarceration, abolition. If you think this conversation is somehow separate from what creates a Diddy, what creates this kind of violence in the community, you're missing the through lines here and the themes. And that I say all that to say, I'm one of these dopes. I'm embarrassed by this, that knows this. I'm one of these people that can look, as someone who has been sexually assaulted, raped, I can look at a Diddy and say, he needs help. There is a larger systemic issue here, just like what you talked about. And then also say, oh, but what are we going to do if we don't have police? Who am I going to call if yada, yada, yada? I'm not somebody that's saying that right now, but I'm saying a couple months ago, I think I did say that to Shanti. And even then, I have called the police the last couple of times to be like, yo, where is my fucking car? And they're the ones that moved it. You know, like, it didn't tell me, didn't leave a note, didn't leave nothing.
People say that, and I'm just like, listen, the majority of women I personally know, including myself, have been sexually assaulted, and we have a lot of police now.
That's the thing. They're not preventing. You are not preventing anything really, besides what? Somebody won't do it right in front of you, maybe, but like, you're not helping the community. You're not getting to know the community that you are supposed to be protecting and serving. You won't even speak in the deli. You know, like, what the fuck?
It's what we teach people. Like, you know what I hate? Like, it reminds me of, like, all throughout my 20s and my early 20s, especially, whenever people would talk about, I always say, whenever I watch TV, especially in like dating shows, and people are like, and you ask them what they want in a partner, and they say some silly shit like, oh, I want somebody to be kind and funny. And I'd be like, what do they believe? What do they think about the world? What are their politics? Like, that's what determines what people will have in common and what they like. And it's like, have you ever talked about, like, have you ever actually inquired what people who do things, who rape, who sexually assault, or what they think? And you would find a lot of what they believe. Like, I have an ex-boyfriend that sexually assaulted me, right? And an ex-boyfriend that I have been known for a long time, most of my life, really care about as a human being. And when he did it, blown the fuck away. Like, I was blown away by that, right? I couldn't believe that he did this. And I remember, like, later on talking to him, even after, like, he'd apologized and all this, after I explained that this is wrong, right? But when I talked to him about what he thinks, like, in the Bahamas, marital rape is not a crime. That gives you
Oh
an idea.
God.
It's a constitutionally Christian nation, and that's what they argue, right? Marital rape is not a thing. And so think about it. This is a culture of men that are being educated to believe, and women to believe in that. So
Right,
think
right.
about what they think. So I remember when he was talking to me about why it shouldn't be illegal, marital rape should not be a crime. And I remember listening to him, and I thought to myself, like, horrified, because what would I expect? Why does it shock me that he doesn't see how he was violating my boundaries if he fundamentally doesn't believe women have them in certain capacities? And he's being taught that, like, it's Christian, like it makes sense, like it's all these different things. And I remember, when I realized, like, how deep it was, like, a year later, a woman did something similar to him that he did to me. And I thought he was calling to tell me because he finally got it, right? Like, he was obviously been assaulted. He was out, like, but he didn't process it or refuse to process it or acknowledge it as, like, he was actually assaulted, right? And I remember realizing, like, oh shit, like even when I said, like, that's what's happened here, like, do you get that? Like, you see why that was wrong now? And he couldn't get it. And that's when I realized, like, this isn't just happening in a vacuum. This isn't actually some problem that's above us. Like, I don't know what to do. I know exactly what you believe in and what you were taught to believe that makes you think this is okay. Like, this is not a problem. If you are taught to believe that women are conquests or things to be achieved or to be had, or that men, like, in both ways, I thought about it, especially analyzing him, right? Like, in his mind, his idea of masculinity is that a man should always be sexually, like, up for it, or want to sleep with every woman, or want to do that, or it reflects his sexuality or his masculinity or whatever. And because he believes that when a woman violates his boundaries, he can't see that as, like, I was sexually assaulted. And then on the flip side of that, because he doesn't see, like, women as fundamentally, like you're able to or, like, he sees sex or this kind of relationship as a duty of interpersonal relationships. He can't see how he is violating your boundary. And so it's not actually, like, when you're away from it, I think society wants you to believe that these people that are doing these things to you are these boogeymen that can't be understood, because that encourages you to just throw up your hands and think that there's nothing about how we're currently going about educating our society, how we're going about where we invest and what we do. And if you feel that way, if you feel like, oh, some people are just bad people, then
Right.
you say, then some people just got to go to jail.
And the
And
systems
then you
don't
continue
change.
to teach people about the same systems. You're still embedding the same rape culture, all of these different things, but you're just expanding the prisons, and nobody's helped for it, right? Like, I'm not helped. It doesn't save me from the harm I experience. It doesn't save him from the harm he experiences. We're all going around and everyone's just like, what the fuck?
Right. Right. It makes me think about two things. It makes me think about the young boys who are taken advantage of and have sex with much, much older women.
Yeah.
And that is, if you are an underage young man, and this older friend of your mom or friend of your older sister is taking advantage of you, that's not a notch on your belt. You were sexually assaulted, you were molested, you were raped, and there's a serious, like, but they don't see it like that. We don't acknowledge it as such because of how patriarchy harms. It also makes me think about, did you watch Higher Learning at all this week?
Not this week. What happened this week?
Watch it. I'm going to encourage everybody to, what episode was that? Because child, this going to come out next week and ain't nobody going to know what I'm talking about. Hold up. It was right after the Diddy things came out. And I hope to talk to him about it. Van had to address some of the ways in which he has embodied patriarchy. It's called Diddy's Apology, Davis's Side, and the Lack of Urgency to Help Black America with Rep. Jamal Bowman. But the main thing is Diddy's Apology, and it came out. Today's the 22nd. It came out yesterday. I think he handled it so well. He had to take serious accountability for, he centered I don't want to go into it, but he centered
Yeah,
some
skinny
things that
tweet.
didn't need to be centered in this
Yeah,
conversation. And he got called in by the
yeah,
community.
yeah,
And he reflected on that. And his realization was, you know what? It's not just like what we're saying, it's not a Diddy thing. This weekend, I turned on the television. I saw Floyd Mayweather. I saw Terrence Howard. And started naming a bunch of people, all of which, if those people wanted to come on this podcast, tomorrow, I would have done a backflip to figure out how to
yeah,
get them on there. They
right.
all have accusations against us. Floyd has done time for this.
Yeah,
Why is it that I am not taking that seriously? And he's like, there's an issue with how I value women and women
yeah,
I don't know. And he took his time to really hold himself accountable, to thank the community for holding him accountable, and to talk about the process that he went through over the weekend to like really self-reflect. And I don't think I spoke to him. It was painful for him to have this realization, because he's like, I think I protect Black women. I love Black women. I that, but I'm caught up in this system, in this way of thinking, and I'm not immune to it, and I'm so fucking disappointed.
it is. Let me tell you something. It is really, 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 really hard. And I say this as I was having this conversation with my boyfriend, because first of all, I'm a defense attorney, right? Like, I'm a defense attorney. And I think that's something people forget sometimes, based on your progressive values, and how they forget like what that means in application, right? Is that like,
You
I'm
gotta
a defense
defend
attorney.
anybody, right?
I represent, and more importantly, I defend a lot of the people, a majority men, you know what I mean, in a criminal system. A lot of the people that my audience are like, will be like, stone them to death. There is no this, da 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 da. I will defend you in court, right? And I believe, and I also, like, I have a certain abolitionist print, like I'm telling you casually that I've experienced sexual assault, I've experienced domestic
Right.
violence, and I've dealt with, I have spoken to, or tried to analyze and understand the men who've done that to me, right? And like, even so, I've been, it's funny, I exist on the internet where I'm criticized for both things by both sides. Like, there are Black men that say I hate Black men, and there are a bunch of Black women that say I hate Black women because I coddle Black men so much, right?
Girl,
And I'm always,
I get it.
listen, and I be trying to. It's hard for me to decide how, right? Because on some levels, I was literally saying this to my boyfriend. I feel the need to, especially as an abolitionist, especially as someone who feels like this is not the right way to go, like this, especially like I said, like, when we take, to me, the aspects of the criminal system that make the criminal system harmful and translate them to our social systems, right? Like, so sometimes I feel the need to jump out against what I think is like a carceral feminism, or a refusal to even, like, this idea that we should discard everybody or all the men in the community have done these things, because I believe that what we teach men overall, what we teach in our communities, breeds most men. All men are being indoctrinated to be this way, whether some are managed to go against the grain and all these other things. So I think, to me, the attitude is not that we should discard them all, but we should discard the school of thought that we have been invested in and that we're teaching, right? So, but that being said, because I think that sometimes and I've experienced domestic violence, and sometimes I think I don't want to seem dismissive to the, like, or downplay how significant the weight of what this is on the women who experience it. It's like, sometimes I think there is something where, in order to try to protect the Black man a little bit, who you think is unprotected, you forsake the Black woman, right? And I was thinking too, I was like, a lot of, especially with seeing this rising conversation of people talking about Gen X, how a lot of Gen X Black women have always, caped for these men, and yada, and they're still doing that. You see a lot of them all over social media, and I think to myself, well, I guess when you think about the men that are in trouble now, right? If we see the reckoning of the men that are in this movement, these diddies, right? Like, these diddies already, obviously, how they got here is by having a generation of women willing to, like, forsake women in their favor, right? Like, a lot of women, like, my mommy's generation. My mommy's had so many fucking problematic takes. It's so crazy when I think about, like, growing up now, her perception of the R. Kelly situation or these things. I'd be like,
Oh no.
Oh,
Mom.
my mama was not on the right side of history. When I watched Surviving R. Kelly, I called her like, "You need to be shot and put in jail, mama. Like, this is crazy." like, mommy, you are dead fucking wrong. Like, I remember hearing my mommy
And these
call the
systems
little
don't
girls
only harm men, they harm everybody.
Exactly. And so I think to myself, like, I don't want to make the same mistake of like, I'm trying to walk this fine line of not becoming these Gen X, like exactly these Gen X Black women who you feel like are so like, oh, wait, let's still make sure we don't, hurt them, that you just don't care about what's being, you know what I mean? Because when you think about it, why the fuck can Dr. Dre get an honorary award still? Like, why is that something the culture can get on board with? And I think when you think about something like that, it's why like a Van, right? Like, and Van's my boy, how you'll be, because we respond, who we get held, we determine a lot of our views or what we think we should speak on or how we should address things based on what our community tells us, right? Based on what the community is saying. And Van is somebody who's been around.
Mirror.
Exactly, that's our mirror. And Van is somebody who's been around long enough to where the community was not always the consensus. The largest point of the largest point of view in the community is not what we think, right? Like, at least it hasn't always been, right? So I can see it's unfortunate that we have that, right? Where like, so like, I'll think about how people respond to me when I criticize the Eric Adams, right? There'd be so many people in the communities, older Black people, that have followed me to tell me I'm trying to bring a Black brother down, a Black man down. And if you're raised and indoctrinated in community, in Black community, to want to hear your Black elders or to want to consider what is the Black point of view, what the majority of the Black people around you or that in your real life think, you might fuck around and center some silly shit. You know what I mean? Some things that are problematic. Like, I could see how you will end up feeling like, oh, I have a professional courtesy to make sure because that's how they make you feel. I had an interview the other day, and I will tell you off camera who it was. Like, Black woman in professional tells me that I needed to respect Eric Adams is a professional, and blah blah blah. I mean, why
I don't think anything you've done is disrespectful. I think it's been your honest opinion, and that's that. But
listen,
it's a fine line between criticism and disrespect, and like criticism and cancellation.
Yeah.
Criticism and cancellation, there's a fine line. And then there's also a fine line between caping for somebody and considering them.
Yeah. But and the thing is, though, I hate that they always have the fine line. Why the fine line always seems to come out, or this idea of like respect or what's permissible and impermissible or impermissible when it comes to critiquing the person that's doing fucked up shit, right? Like, it's like the community will expect you to, like, they will think it's okay for you to start trying to look for kid gloves to how you handle talking about, did he abusing a woman? They're okay with you trying to find.
The rationale is because of this. Okay. You look at Eric Adams, you look at a Puff, even whoever the fuck else, who else has done some shit, maybe even Floyd, whatever. These people are Black men that operated in a country where the systems were set up for them to fail.
Yeah.
They, in many people's eyes, and the way that I think the collective defines success, have reached a pinnacle, have reached a level of success where they are so valued, they are so precious.
Yeah.
We cannot, I'm not saying I feel this way. I'm saying I think some of the people feel that we can't run the risk of criticizing them because we don't know when we're going to get another shot. It's like when people I know a lot of elders who have problems when you criticize Obama or say anything like, well, he could have done this different. He should have done X. It doesn't mean he's a shit person. And two things can be true, that we wish he would have codified Roe v. Wade, and he didn't. And now here we are, I think it's because, again, we are victims of this system. We are systems that are in play that are so effective. They are so fucking effective that we are terrified. We will hold up a monster and put a mask over that monster just because, to make sure that white America doesn't know our dirt, so they know that the rest of us might have a chance.
Because there's two things. It's one, we know just how much worse every white person that is successful or powerful is and has gotten to be. And two, it's we know how much harder we have to work, and we know how much unfair the critique is on us. Like, funny enough, Patrice O'Neill has in his stand-up Elephant in the Room. Patrice O'Neill talks about this with Obama. He's like, black people on the edge of their seats are going, what the fuck is this nigga Obama doing? If there's too many white people outwardly hating him, but like, if you would just shut the fuck up, I'll hate on him too, right? It's like this awareness that this black person is being critiqued unfairly or getting so much flack or experiencing something that is based on their race, right? It's the way that, like, I know Fannie Willis is a DA. She's a prosecutor. Ain't no part of her is on my side of the team. We are not aligned in any way. And I know so many black women professionally who feel the same way as me, but
she's
still
a black woman.
But still were upset about how she was being treated during that, because they know. And that's the thing. It's like,
I was.
Yeah.
The way she was treated during the trial, I was like, this is fucked up. I don't agree with the way that she does everything down there in Atlanta with her cop city and everything the fuck else. But I don't agree with this.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, right? It's like, because we know and we have that understanding and we see how bullshit plays out, because you see that, it makes you be like, this is fucked up against society. Even though in all senses of the world, she's really on the side. Like, she is of the side of the system that is mistreating her. You know what I mean? Right. On a normal day-to-day basis, she is weaponizing and needling that system, hammering it down on the heads of black people.
Ooh, you know what I'm saying? That's a fucking bar. I mean, listen, that's it right there. Yeah. Yes. All right, let's get into said system, right? Mass incarceration, child. Barack, we just talked about Barack. Shout out to biracial Barack. He famously once said the U.S. is 5% of the world's population, but makes up 25% of the world's prisoners.
Yep.
I'm going to say that again. The U.S. is 5%, only 5% of the entire world's population, but makes up 25% of the entire world's prison. Like, what? That is insanity if you think about those numbers. Prison, maybe not obviously, but replaced slavery after it was abolished in order to rebuild the South, right?
Yeah.
There's this, way back in the day, we have Birth of a Nation comes out. There's this narrative of this big, bad, burly black man that's going to rape and pillage and harm and brute that's going to harm all these white women. And so now you have laws that were put into place to basically criminalize black men, free quote unquote black men, and get them caught up into this prison system that basically was the new model of slavery. I know that if you've watched the 13th, what does she call it? 13th Amendment or the 13th?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Ava DuVernay's?
Yeah.
That's a shame. I should have had that written down. But the 13th Amendment, mass is like, it says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So what is jurisdiction? So basically what that's saying is you could be free unless you are convicted of a crime. If you are convicted of a fucking crime, all bets are off. All bets are off. You are enslaved now. And you are now here for us to profit off of. Take your rights. And what we are going to do is we are going to do everything we can to keep you in said system, because we being America needs your labor, needs your value the same way that they needed the slaves to come here and build this country up. We need this free labor in order to sustain ourselves. And that is partially why the U.S. has so many folks enslaved in this country.
Yeah, because America has about 2 million people incarcerated. Think about that.
Unbelievable.
Think about that.
And
you
that's
know what's
not.
funny?
Can I ask you a question? That's
Yeah.
not with just in the system, because incarceration and being in the system, because
Yeah.
these parole, all that nonsense and all the
Exactly.
that's a whole
Exactly.
other gamut that you
Yeah.
can't get out of.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the vast majority of people in the U.S. criminal system, before arrest, made less than $12,000 annually. So understand that the vast
Of
majority of
course.
everybody in the U.S. criminal system is poor. And you know what I think is funny about people? You know what is so funny about America? When you tell America something like the Republicans are racist or listening or something very obvious like that, or that policing is bad or policing is racist or whatever, they refuse to believe. Like, that's insane for you to say. Like, think about how much of an uproar it was that when people how mad people were when Hillary said that these people who would vote for Trump are deplorables, right? Like, that's insane, right? It's always this argument that many people can't be racist, that many people can't be this, or blah blah blah. You always want to read something and like, you can't believe it. All these people cannot knowingly know that this system is fucked up or know that it's racist or get that and support that, but you will believe that 2 million people are just bad people who deserve to be in jail. Like, who just, like, people would believe that. They sit in the country every day endorsing and believing that. You cannot believe.
They fearmonger well. They fearmonger well. They believe that migrants, the people, that half the people coming here for refuge, to work, to actually contribute to this country, are coming over with fentanyl, wanting to kill, rape, and pillage. They're the new brute. Or they're included in it.
And the funny thing is, there always were. I put this in my Greg Abbott expose, right? Like, I actually do, if you watch it, I do a comparison between the letters that Greg Abbott has written now about the border and his fight at the border and him helping kill migrants at the border. I did a comparison between the original secession letters from the South and Greg Abbott's letter, and they're invoking the exact same, like, oh, the Mexicans at the border are banditti, criminals. It's the same. It's the same. So they've always been doing this, right? They've always been making the exact same arguments, and disparaging the exact same groups of people. So it's funny. Like, the thing that blows me about America is, like, when you talk about something like police brutality, like, if I decided to, I talk about policing all the time, police brutality, and people be like, all you want to do is talk about race, or you want to, oh, they're like, they don't want to hear when you talk about them fear-mongering about crime, but if you talk about police brutality, like, you sensationalize it, or you picking up a police, but police kill people every single day in America, like, every single day.
Talk about
like,
it.
There's a website I encourage everybody to check out, mappingpoliceviolence.org, I think. Google mapping police violence, and they monitor it. The police they kill every year more than that you know of. Think about that you know of. And understand, brutality is not even just murder. Like, think about all the ways, like a Jacob Blake that was paralyzed, shot in his back repeatedly and paralyzed by the police. Or think about, these people are not even counting in these numbers. So the police murder that we know of, that they admit to killing, and that's also important, because there are people like a Ronald Green that the police killed and lied about it, and they said he died in a car accident. It was years before the video footage came out showing that the police had killed him, right? So that we know of, the police are killing more than 1,100 people every year in the United States. There are 365 days in the year. So if I could literally talk to you about multiple people, victims of police, that are being killed by the police every day, and people will downplay that. Like, they will act like it's only the occasional person. And it's like, no, it's only the occasional person that we're able to draw so much national outrage around that the media will bother to cover, right? It's the only occasional you might get some coverage on a George Floyd, you might get some coverage on a Breonna Taylor, you might get some coverage on an Elijah McClain, but you didn't hear about Sean Reed, or you didn't hear about Dijon Kizzee, or you didn't hear about Stephen Kadu. You know what I mean? It's all these different people. So that's the interesting thing.
I mean, they're the slave catchers. And you know what? I don't, whether they like it or not, I'll say that. You cannot operate, I guess, within a system, and this is something for all of us to think about. But capitalism, when you need a job, you need a fucking job. But you can't operate in a system where the actual tenet of the system, like the police were formed to catch runaway slaves, and it was the KKK that was making up the police force. Having an organization birthed from that, you can't get away from the doctrines. You can't get away from the way of being. It's like, to me, they're just slave catchers, bringing people in. I mean, America makes $11 billion yearly. And this study was back in like 2021. So it's probably more.
Yep.
$11 billion yearly on goods produced by prisoners.
Yes. Yes,
I mean,
and families of incarcerated people are in like $27 billion worth of debt from like commissaries
of
and phone
course.
bills and all these different things. And that's the thing that people, you know what I hate? America has a bunch of slogans. Like America's a so much of this country is PR and slogan and marketing, and people don't realize it, right? Like, think about it. Like, when people think of police, they think about protect and serve. There's no fucking place where that is written down, where that is a fact, where that is illegal. That's actually it, right? Nowhere. And police actually, constitutionally, the Supreme Court ruled on it that the police have absolutely no duty to protect citizens. But people think about this slogan that they heard, protect and serve, right? Or they think about, they'll hear innocent until proven guilty in a country that locks you a pre-trial every day, right? Or what's the other stupid ass slogan? Like, it's just a bunch of these stupid platitudes that people have been taught to believe in, and they don't care whether they have any like relation to the truth.
Yeah. What is it? What is it when they talk about the separation of church and state? Like, where? I gotta swear on a Bible, bruh. What are we talking about? What are we saying? It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the commissary because they said 27.6 billion.
That was my last with the commentaries. You do the time, you do the crime, you do the time, right? This idea that like, once you commit a crime and you did your time and that's your debt to the society was paid. People don't realize that people who are incarcerated, think about this. I already told you that the vast majority of people in the criminal system are underneath the poverty line, are represented by public defenders, are destitute. And those people are not only being they have cash bail weaponized against them in order to force them to plead.
What's cash bail for people who don't know?
So what happened? People are accused of crimes. What the criminal system will do often is they at arraignments, you're accused of this crime, so you are technically innocent until proven guilty. But yet the court, who knows that you are poor, who knows you're beneath the poverty line because they assigned you a public defender based on that information, then goes and says, oh, you're going to be sent to jail unless you could pre-trial, unless you can pay this amount of money, and or what often they will do is, or you can plead to the charge now on this case that I told you has not been converted. They don't have, they probably can't prosecute you on it. They don't have any evidence. You haven't gone to trial or anything, but it's either that or go to jail, go to a place like Rikers pre-trial.
Which is Khalif Browder, which is, I'm naming him because that's the person that we think of that got, that obviously got a lot of coverage on that, rest his soul. But I mean, this is so many people. I have personal people who have spent time in jail. I mean, over a year and change in jail because they were too poor to afford to get out. This is where it's like, okay, so you're telling me that I am now being punished because of my income and my status, but this person over here can just walk free. And this is all pre-trial. And then when you sell people, which I never understood this, when you tell people we want to do away with cash bail, they tell you want to let the criminals back out on the street.
Listen,
what the fuck? This is pre-trial. What are we talking about?
I pointed out there's an initiative, and I think it's a nonprofit named Worth Rises that's working on a working on a bill to get phone calls in prison in New York State made free, right? Which would be amazing because the cost, like I said, families are in debt, billions of dollars because of commissaries, because of phone calls, because they're having to pay for calls to and from prison, right? And so they show like not only are Black and Hispanic mothers like families disproportionately fronting the costs and the debts from all of these phone calls and commissaries and all of these different things, but also it helps people who are able to be in more regular contact with their families and their loved ones who are in prison have a much more higher rate of successfully reintegrating back into society and not reoffending. And I say this, put this in a video, and there are Black people commenting like, fuck that, you so fucking out of touch with what Black people want. These people are this, it ain't supposed to be easy. And I just be like, Lord, we are lost. You could tell the people, child, you could take the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. And before I forgot, to innocent until proven guilty. What people don't realize too is that all of these charges come with fines and fees. So people will be in prison 10 years, 8 years, however long, doing their time. And while they're there, they are being saddled with tens of thousands of dollars of debt that they are told that they have to pay back. So poor, destitute people. The system already knows it's destitute, has now sent you to prison, and is also going to like
Give you a
release you with a
record.
criminal record and a massive bill you and your family could never pay to guarantee that you and your family stay in cycles of debt.
Mhm. Yep.
So,
Yep. Capitalism at its
Yep.
best, working. And then this is where and people get so irritated with both, I think, Shati and me, not necessarily our listeners, but mostly me, because I go on other podcasts more frequently and I'm like, capitalism is my favorite word. They get frustrated with me because they're like, how could you be mad at Oprah or they used to say Puff, Jay-Z, Beyonce? And I'm like, I'm not mad at them specifically.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes, but what I'm getting at is this idea that liberation is rooted in Black capitalism and attaining that is not liberation, because in order for them to be there, the rest of a lot of other folks have to be saddled in these kinds of systems. These are the systems that allow for that type of wealth to even exist, to even manifest. I'm not saying people don't work hard for their money.
You're absolutely right. But you're absolutely right. It's just easier. The thing is, right, it's just easier for people to believe in, right? Let me tell you why. Because one, a lot of people, and I actually heard this in a speech. I was watching, if you know Garrison Hayes, check out his YouTube. Garrison did a video about Clarence Thomas. And in that video, he showed a clip of Clarence Thomas's speech that he gave shortly after he had gone on the Supreme Court, and it was for like a Black chapter, like a Black lawyer thing, and they did not want to hear from his ass. Looking at, and he was basically explaining why he's the coon, right? But he was basically saying that he's decided that the best, that he was like, oh, I participated in like the radical this and the movement this, and I basically been left to determine that the best thing for us, like he was basically like the assassination of MLK caused him to lose all his faith, and he thinks the actual best approach for us is to focus as the individual, right? Is to focus on our own, like this Black apple, because that's what it is. It's hard work. It's just harder, and it doesn't, and the reward doesn't feel, the work with what's on the other end of committing your life to that just doesn't look desirable. If you tell yourself that success and liberation are the best that I could do, or what I can do that won't feel overwhelming, is to focus on myself, is this idea that I just need to climb up. I just need to focus on climbing up for me and maybe grabbing my kids or my whatever, and that will be success. What's on the other end of that Black capitalistic dream for you is one where, at least in your mind, is you as an individual doing well, or you being fine, or you being comfortable, rather than you suffering and struggling in a world where you don't actually think that you as an individual have the ability to do or bring about the thing that you want. So I think it's just easier for people to believe in. It's just easier, right? They much rather the idea, when you think about what it means to want to divest from capitalism, or to want to like buck the system or change the system, you think about people who come to a shitty end. Like the people that come to your mind are I think of George Jackson's, I think of Asada's, I think of MLK's, I think of Malcolm X, I think of Kwame, I think of the WB, whoever. The best version of what you see about, is usually not a reality that a lot of people want to see for themselves. But if you think about Black capitalism or trying out, what you see is people looking like they living good, living high off the hog, and that is a much more comfortable reality to attain for yourself. Like the idea of sacrificing and working hard and struggle just to end up ass out, or worse, taken out, is not one that I think appeals to a lot of people. So it's just easier for them to buy into to capitalism.
I hear that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when folks, I hear that, and I don't disagree with you. I guess my retort to the folks who feel that way is like, at the end of the day, though, if all you're worried about is yourself, when you actually need help, you don't have a community. Where is your community? There's something to be said about generational wealth, right? There's something to be said about influence. Because in order to dismantle some of these things, I think some of that is needed. because the way that society is structured now, the way that it operates is that you need to be valued in order for people to listen. You need to have some kind of currency, whether
some kind of
it's
safety.
right, whether your currency is actual dollars or whether it's followers, you know, whatever it is, there has to be some kind of currency to get people to listen. But I don't know the way, but there's got to be another way, because Oprah is not getting us free. Love Rihanna down. Rihanna is not getting us free. She's using her influence, though, to help create spaces that reflect us more. But representation only goes so far.
Right. And listen, I think I recognize, like, I think it's okay for Black people to live in a world where they recognize that they're just trying to survive, or they're just trying for other, like, not for me, but like for other Black people. I understand, and I'm okay with people who are just trying to make it. I think for me, I look at the work that I do, or advocacy, or speaking out, or all these things. I look at it as a privilege. I see it as a privilege, in so many respects, and I don't think most people have that privilege, and I definitely don't think most Black people have that privilege. Most Black people do not have the ability to speak up and say what they want and pay their bills the next day, and to survive that, and to not deal without. I look at even just looking at how systems or the world that my boyfriend interacts with versus mine, as somebody with, like, even is different. Like, I see the way that he's treated going through, like, the job market or all these different things, and so I get that, and I'm not even mad at that. I'm not mad at Black people who are trying to worry about themselves. What is this mistake is when people or them or anybody misleads themselves to believe that what they are doing in any way benefits the collective. Like, it's a mistake. That's why I've never liked Black excellence. I hated when the Black lawyer. Oh my God, I hated when my classmates were graduating. They were getting, like, the Black Lawyers Matter and the Black stupid shit. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, I hated that, because it suggests that, like, what happens to me does not benefit the whole. If Olayemi becomes rich, or we become attorneys, like, me just being a lawyer by itself does not help Black people. Like, sure, I'm not mad at, but Black people and everybody else is entitled to symbolic wins, to want representation, to want to see us more in the room, and that's okay. You could want to see more Black lawyers, more Black doctors, and all these different things. But the implication that this, like, Black excellence, or us just being there no matter what it is that we do with it, is like a win I don't like. Like, for me, which is why I decided to do what I did with being a lawyer. I remember I originally was going to be a divorce lawyer. Like, that's what I thought in undergrad, right? I was like, oh, that'll be exciting, drama. Like, I could hear people tea for the rest of my life. At least I won't be boring. And then I remember feeling like, when I was writing my thesis, it was during the Ferguson protests, and I was writing my thesis called Colored Bodies, the Relationship Between Our Bodies and Power. And my thesis advisor called me, she called affectionately, my Dr. Kathleen Sullivan, I love her. She called me a gap scholar, which is somebody who in academia, like, points out the problems but doesn't necessarily have the solutions or whatever, which is
more
which is
questions
fine.
and answers. Yeah.
Yes. And that's a good thing. You need that in academia. But I remember saying, I don't feel like it's sufficient for me to go become a Black lawyer. And this isn't me saying that every Black lawyer needs to do that. No, I don't think that. Just me. I was like, I don't feel like it's sufficient for me to go become a Black lawyer in a system that is where Black people are disproportionately profiled and arrested and incarcerated, and we make up 5% of the legal profession. I don't think it's okay for me to just go, like, hashtag Black excellence and don't do shit that helps the community. You know what I mean? Like that, because then that doesn't help. Like people will do this thing. I hate seeing people be like, the profession is only filled with 5% of us, and they'll be like showing off, like, oh, see, I'm the Black lawyer, and it's only 5% of us, but they don't do shit that helps Black people. Nothing they do.
There's no ladder.
It's just like, I'm here, I'm Black, I look excellent, so that's a Black win. And it's like, no, it's not. No,
it's not a win if you're not reaching back, right?
You'll see Black prosecutors. I know, like, Black prosecutors, they there, Black excellence, locking up niggas all day.
Wow.
So that's how I feel about that.
That makes a lot of, listen, Olay, I could keep you here all goddamn day, and I want to, because I wanted to ask you about this Dexter Taylor thing, because I don't understand this. Do you know about?
Oh, this don't even upset my spirit today, child. Like, okay, I got my chest. Like,
okay, for the listeners, please look up Dexter Taylor. Dexter Taylor was recently sentenced to 10 years in prison and is now a violent felon. But prosecutors agree that there was no violence. and no victims for his crime.
I know the reporter for a reason who did a lot of the coverage on that, Billy Binion. If you want me to put you in contact with him, you can talk to me. He knows all the info.
I would love to, because that's whoa, that's crazy. That's whose tweet I'm reading. That's
I listen. I know everybody. That's my world. I swear to you, right before we started recording, I swear to God that Billy texted me. I literally, hold on, I could show. Boom, Billy Binion.
That's crazy. I need it, because I don't understand this. I mean, I don't understand how people are getting convicted of violent felonies for an unlicensed gun, which was a paperwork violation.
I have had this. Listen, people, it's so hard to have these kinds of conversations like on Twitter and the internet. Well, and that's why I hate when people be like, you say something and they'll be like, oh, but only for non-violent criminals or non-violent crime. And I'm like, violent crime is a legal term. It is a legal term of art. It is a legal fiction. Like, violence gets attached to things that have no violence involved at all. Like, non-violent and violent are legal terms. It don't mean shit. So, yeah.
This whole system is a fucking joke.
Oh, we have to have a whole talk about that. I'll put you in contact with Billy.
I need it. Listen, if y'all not convinced to go over to that YouTube channel, I don't know what else you need. Get over there. Support Olay. Olay, where can the people follow you?
And Olay and Friends airs every Sunday at 1 p.m. New episodes premiere. It's always a good time. Antoinette has been there a bunch. She's a show regular. That is great. So yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Nadi, for my Nadi productions, my iconic interviews, and Olay and Friends. And you can follow me on all social media at Miss Olurin. I'm sure Antoinette gonna link it for you.
I'm gonna link it. Don't you worry.
Thank you, sis.
Thank you. Do you have time for rapid fire questions? We usually do this with every guest for their first time. All right, I'm going to say two different things. You just, without no explanation, just as quickly as you can, 2 seconds or less, just pick one. All right?
Okay.
Malcolm or Martin?
Malcolm.
Generational wealth or familial happiness?
Familial happiness.
Jay or Nas?
Nas.
Mac or Sephora?
Sephora.
Palestine or Israel?
Palestine.
In the light or in the dark?
In the light.
Prince or Michael?
Michael.
Sweet or savory? Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Okay, marriage or long-term commitment?
Marriage. I married my boo.
Trader Joe's or Whole Foods?
My boyfriend just screamed from the room. Yeah, yes, we are.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I know that's right, baby.
Trader Joe's or Whole Foods?
Oh, Trader Joe's. I feel like cool. I'm a dirty liar. I go to Whole Foods. I think I just wanted to be a woman of the people. The dirty.
I know that's right. But you like say what you said.
Lying, bitch. You don't go to nobody's Trader Joe's. You go to DJ's and Whole Foods.
I know that's right. All right. Voodoo or brown sugar?
Voodoo or brown sugar? Like the
D'Angelo album. D'Angelo album.
Oh, D'Angelo's album. CJ, shut up. CJ, shut up. It's voodoo.
Seat at the table or lemonade?
Oh, the albums. Oh, I'm so sorry. I hate to do this to Solange, but lemonade. Duh.
Okay. Nicki or Cardi?
Oh, Cardi. Yeah, that's my bitch.
Jollof or rice and peas?
So it's peas and rice for me. I'm more Caribbean than I am African.
Say less.
I'm a knockoff.
Missionary or doggy style?
Doggy.
Protection or pull out in prayer?
Pull out in prayer. Yeah, protection.
Is it Uchi Wally Wally or is it one mic? The ones that you're thinking hard about are so funny.
Uchi Wally.
Movies, Love Jones or Jason's Lyric?
Love Jones.
Lisa Bonet or Nia Long?
Oh, Nia Long. Nia Long, so damn beautiful.
Bell Hooks or Audre Lorde?
That's crazy. Bell Hooks or Audre Lorde is crazy. Audre Lorde, I love her.
Nuck If You Buck or Annie Up?
That's hard, but the way me and Nuck, I'm gonna sing every word to Nuck if you
I
buck.
knew
So
you were
I'm
going to
not
say
Nuck
Nuck if you buck. 9/11, inside job or terrorist attack?
You know what? Looking like America gonna stress me out. It's in between, right? Because it's the way America uses terrorists to like describe all the other.
Like we're not a terrorist nation, but okay.
I believe right. You see what I'm saying? It's the characterization. It's a terrorist attack. It's an attack. It's an attack, most certainly. It's now the political framing and how it came about and all of that. So
I knew it. I knew you were gonna be like, I love it. Thank you. Couple more. Rihanna or Beyonce?
Beyonce.
Erica or Jill?
Jill, Eric. They're both problematic to people, but Jill is way less problematic to me, and I love her. That's my bitch. Plus, that's queen.
Toni Morrison or Alice Walker?
Oh, definitely Toni Morrison and Alice be out here saying Alice be out there saying things to upset people, including her child.
Tricky. Flats or drums?
Drumsticks.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Prove your point or pray for peace? Say it.
I prove my point.
Buy stocks or buy flights?
Oh, buy flights. I don't trust stocks. That's gambling with my money.
I heard you. Eric Adams or Rudy Giuliani? Added that just for you.
I think the hardest part about dealing with a nigga like Eric Adams is it's hard to convince people that something is happening when they see it happening in a messenger they don't think can do it. So I think Eric Adams being black is why he's allowed, why it's so hard to even get the message to black people that he's doing what he's doing, versus I have to work way less hard to show people that a Rudy Giuliani is doing what they. So I take Rudy Giuliani.
Say less. Say less. I love that you explained that, but it was a good explanation. All right. And finally, Love and Light or Money and Dicks?
Oh, Love and Light.
Oh, what a sweet girl she is. I should have asked you Asada or Raheem, but I didn't.
Raheem? I had to throw Asada from the balcony before I get rid of my good son. It's not even close. I don't know that gal from nowhere else.
I love you. For those of you that don't follow Olay on social, the love fest with her cats is so funny. She just got a new cat, Asada. And Asada is cutting up, but apparently she's getting it together a little bit.
She is. We honestly she's my little girl. I'm not gonna lie to you, Antoinette. She really is my little girl. Me and CJ went to North Carolina for his best friend's wedding. He was the best man, and I'm not gonna lie, I was hyped to come in the house and see Asada. She be happy to see me. Raheem still has an attitude that she's here, so he not fucking with me like that. So Asada's giving me all the love. I came in the house and she was like, "Hey, mommy, come up." I love her. She comes when you call her. She come hug us up. That's my baby.
That's cute.
Yes.
I so appreciate you. You have no idea. I wish you, I would love to convince you to run for office, but I also get it. I get it.
Listen,
but I think you're so necessary.
They give me some status. They give me some citizenship status. You can know, sis, I will send a marching band down Flatbush. Y'all gonna know when I become a U.S. citizen.
I'm gonna look out the window oh shit. No,
I'm telling you, you're gonna know.
Your application probably lost in the mail, girl. All the chaos you.
Let me tell you. Let me
created. Nope, decline.
But I swear, sis, I be in my mommy and them be like, Lord, why this gal in these people country making all this noise and she knows she always
It's necessary. It's necessary. I don't want to hear nobody say it's not. We need you. And it's some bullshit. If you ever end up on the ballot, you better believe you got my mother. I'll move to wherever you fucking running.
I'm like, listen, maybe when I'm old lady, so I could carry on, I could get 4 years of doing everything for niggas before they take me out the game. Because let me tell you something, I always knew, and I guess I know what I am and how I would be received by the powers that be. But I've always said to my friends, if I went into politics, niggas would take me out the game. But when I saw NYPD responded to me just doing an interview I was invited to do, like, you know what I mean?
I was scared for you. I texted you and was like, girl.
I was shook for 2 weeks. I was like, hold on now. Like, maybe I'm like, stay in this house. We don't need to be like, stay in here. So like, when I realized that, I was like, oh yeah, they definitely get me the fuck up out of here if I went into politics or something like that. I surely realized that the way the police was coming at me, I said, oh,
well,
yeah.
Well, tell me offline what the hell they was doing. I knew it.
Oh, listen, they want 10. They want actual 10. I was like, Lord, I really be thinking about that because, you know, I used to have an ex who would be like, oh Lord, man, but he'd be like, oh, when you decide to settle down and you have your husband and your kids, you can't have that kind of career because it's one thing to be doing that with you, but you can't be endangering, a black man and the kids and all this different stuff. But there is something to like, and my boyfriend is the most supportive person ever, but I do worry, like, okay, there is this black man that is, and who is not me. Like, he's not walking around with the protection of maybe an audience that knows that people are doing something new or something. I do think about the way things about my life might be imputed to him, and that makes me worry, let alone like if I have kids, right? Like I'm like, I think about that, like even how I felt about walking around the neighborhood and stuff with the police knowing me and the police attacking me on social media. I thought, like, what if I had a kid and like my son has to come off the subway, has to ride the subways, has to take the subway or walk home from it, walk past a million police, like, how do I know? Like, those things are in my mind. So I keep thinking, the more I become an enemy of the police, the more I think about, where can I live? Because can I raise my family in a place where the police department like knows me by name and face and hates my stinking guts? Is it safe for me to raise my kids here? Like, and let me tell you something right now. If y'all think I make noise on behalf of other people, listen, my sister don't always say God know who and who he put in certain positions. And God knows why he keeps my family and my loved ones covered, because, son,
It'd be
you
a whole
talk
other
noise
game.
making, don't touch my love.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. Yes, we're gonna see. I might have to move somewhere where I can't upset the police department. But the problem is, every time I think about it, Antoinette, I can't see myself living anywhere and not deciding to look into what the fuck the police department is doing there.
That's the thing. That's the thing, and that's the systems that we're up against. It's like that's how they keep people quiet and complicit, and that's real, and that's a real thing that you have to consider. I was worried. And I was never going to tell you not to say it. I was like, hell yeah, you fucking say that shit. But also, you watch your back and you make sure people know where you at, and let anybody, I live in Flatbush. You say what you need. Holla if some shit's happening.
My black male friends have been calling me from the day I first ever got my media appearance. I remember my boy Kyrie called me and he was like, hey, yo. He was like, I was watching it and I was like, hey, yo, Yemi saying some real nigga shit. And then I was like, hey, yo, Yemi, you can't be on there saying no real nigga shit. He was like, it literally, I know how much I was spitting based on how worried all my black men friends are. Like, they call me like, hey, I know this is dope and stuff, but stop. Like, you really it's gonna be a problem for you. And like, so I've always had that, like my mommy and my family, especially because again, I'm an immigrant, so it really is not the safest thing that I do, but it is what it is, right? Like, I can't, like I say, I do everything that I do is an extension of me and who I am. Like, it's what I was gonna say. I'm not gonna live in this world and not say something about these systems and not do these things. There's nothing else for me to do. This is what I'm gonna do. So
just make sure your taxes are filed correctly,
and they are, sis.
Because they get you some bullshit. They'll Marcus Garvey your ass real quick. Get you up out of here. All right, girl. All right, y'all. I'm gonna sign off. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you. This is an amazing episode. Olay, you are so generous with your time, with your stories. There's things you shared that you definitely didn't need to, and I'm sorry that you were even able to share them. But you are loved. You are appreciated. You are supported, and I'm in your corner, girl. We all are. Thank you. All right. With that, we are out.